Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of Monday, September 27th, and if everybody would rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance first, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If the clerk would please take the roll.
Councilmember Archibald. Councilmember Ashford.
Present.
Councilmember Lamb.
Here.
Councilmember Mosherek.
Here.
Councilmember Pemberton.
Here.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Here.
Mayor Rapp.
Here. You have the minutes from the regular meeting of September the 13th. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So move, Madam Chair.
Support. Thank you. Council members Ashford and Lamb. Is there any changes? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes will stand as submitted. We do have a couple of presentations tonight. If the clerk would read the first one.
Presentation of a proclamation to support and acknowledge Minority Enterprise Development Week 2021.
I'm going to go to the podium, and then Kevin Toddy and Joyce Doyle. Do you want to? Oh, Steve. Kevin, okay. And Michelle, I'm going to come right
They
on
all
up.
can come on down. Actually, we want them together. We want them together.
Okay, not a problem. I will read it. Okay. Whereas on behalf of the City of Port Huron, we join our nation in recognizing the importance of minority-owned businesses and the opportunities they have to impact the City of Port Huron and St. Clair County. And whereas for many minority-owned families, we realize that a business is more than a job. In many instances, it is the fulfillment of a dream for a better life, a family legacy, and a place in the community which they live. And whereas we respectfully recognize the efforts of the Blue Water Area Chamber in collaboration with the Community Foundation of St. Clair County to intentionally recruit and assist minority-owned businesses and further provide a platform for future and sustainable growth. And whereas we commend the Blue Water Area Chamber for successfully signing on an estimated 37 minority-owned businesses since the beginning of 2021. And whereas an expert in the Proclamation of Minority Enterprise Development Week quotes, from Wall Street to Main Street, over 9.2 million minority-owned business enterprises support jobs and generate more than $1.8 trillion for our economy every year in the United States. And whereas the Chamber has established a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee to help deal with the challenges and barriers in understanding the difficulties minority-owned businesses will encounter going forward. And whereas during Minority Enterprise Development Week, we recognize that our nation and our economy is stronger because of the hardworking men and women who comprise America's minority, to include the City of Port Huron and St. Clair County businesses. They consistently demonstrate the courage it takes to overcome adversity, seize opportunity, and contribute to our shared prosperity. Now, therefore, I, Pauline M. Rapp, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Port Huron, and on behalf of Council members Archibald, Ashford, Lamb, Mosherek, Pemberton, and Ruiz, do hereby proclaim the week of September 19th through the 25th to be Minority Enterprise Development Week 2021 in the City of Port Huron, and do hereby support and acknowledge Minority Enterprise Development Week and respectfully call upon the people of the City of Port Huron and St. Clair County to acknowledge and celebrate the achievements and contributions of minority-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, and enterprises, and commit together to promote systemic economic equality. Thank you very much. And, whoops, I pulled this page. Anybody would like to say something? I know you're never at a loss.
No. The one thing that you did say is that we would have to share this.
I can always print some more of them up.
But you know what? Don't print any more, because when we talk about equity and inclusion, the committee here, you guys have developed a culture that breathes and shares equity, inclusion, and diversity. So we thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Joyce.
Okay.
And Joyce, you get over there too. I'll get
Yeah,
there.
Joyce.
Yeah. Joyce, you get over there and I'll get you.
Get in there.
Okay.
I want y'all to pay me since y'all talking about it. I want to be paid for my picture here.
All right.
All right.
We'll work her.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Second presentation, please.
The mayor will present a certificate of appreciation to the City of Port Huron Police Department, Fire Department, Forestry Division, and Detroit Edison for their hard work and dedication to the cleanup of the storm aftermath in the City of Port Huron.
Could I have a representative from each one of those entities up to the, pardon me? Oh, well, whoever is going to come up from those departments. Might be more than one person, so please come to the podium.
You could all come to the podium, but don't bring no trees.
Yeah, we don't want that. You're absolutely right. Okay. Well, we had quite a storm last week, for sure. And I know that all of you put a lot of efforts into making sure our city was cleaned up for our residents, and we really appreciate that very much. We're very proud of all of you for the work that you did to make sure that everything was back in line, that our residents were safe, and got informed quickly about what was going on and how they were going to take care of it. So we do appreciate it very much. So on behalf of the council, I have a certificate of appreciation for each one of you. So I will pass them out. DTE. And we do appreciate it. And a round of applause is certainly in order.
We appreciate and apologize for the power outages. We appreciate the fire department for standing by our wires. I mean, we don't have much time to do it, so we want to thank you for everybody for being patient with us.
Well, we thank you. It's certainly nothing that could be helped.
And the police department for standing by some of our wires as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, now is the time for public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the City Council this evening on anything on our agenda or under our control, please come forward, say your name, and you have 4 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm here tonight just to make kind of some really nice comments. Last Friday evening, I decided to take a walk over and watch part of a high school football game. Well, when I come home, of course, it's like the rest of most of the city of Port Huron. The lights are out. And they're still out. But a strange occurrence occurred. About 8:30, 8:35, the guys are out there working in the dark, getting the power hooked back up, and all of a sudden a cheer from the neighborhood comes up and the lights went on. And I'm just here to just say on behalf of, I know a resident who was affected for 2.5 days, and the ones that had a lot of issues, and some still ongoing, that it was handled really well. It was kind of a record storm, very different kind of storm, but I think it was really done, and I appreciate very much. The other issue that I have, and I know the city administration has done a good job already, I'm just kind of absent the problem with I thought the city council itself should have some kind of a endorsement of our St. Clair County Health Department director. You know, she's kind of an embattled employee right now, and she's done a lot with the COVID thing and responded well to it, and our city manager has responded equally. And I'm just here to ask city council to make some kind of resolution in support of the St. Clair County Health Director. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the City Council this evening? Thought she was getting up to come to the... Thank you. Okay, no one else, so we will say comment is closed and move on to, from the city manager, number 1.
Accepting the proposal from Crane Technologies Group Incorporated in the amount of $53,896.18 for the removal and replacement of the existing overhead hoist at the wastewater treatment plant.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, supported by Councilmember Moserak. Is this an item that was planned to replace?
No, it started making a really weird noise, and then we found out that after 50 years it decided to die. It's no longer safe to use. So it will need to be replaced. It is original to the plant. As you can see, there's a cost allocation that's shared between the townships as well, so it will not be borne 100% in the city. only about $36,331 will come out of our sewer fund.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Freed?
Yeah, Mayor Rep, I don't have any, yeah, I guess I do have a question. It's always a good thing, you know, when we have to share this cost, so that's always, you know, refreshing. But usually when we get something over there at the wastewater, it's always so old. So
Yeah.
what capacity are we at?
Well, everything's broken about once now, so I think it's pretty much been rebuilt.
Oh, yeah. you know,
We're at the stage now where over the last 3 years, you've seen several $1 million in key components getting replaced and rebuilt. In fact, on the 7th of October, we have a community tour of business leaders coming in to tour the facility, because it's hard to spend millions and millions of dollars on stuff if people have never physically seen just how big and how proprietary these systems are. That's a custom plant. It's not like they go out and just, you buy one, fits all. It's custom built, everything's custom, and so it is very expensive, but after, we've done a great job in the last, I'd say 10 to 15 years. Bob Clegg did an excellent job with planning for capital improvement. Eric Witter has really picked that up. So if you look at our CIP plan, there's some strategic capital improvements scheduled for the next 6 years in the water and wastewater plant. We're trying to identify these large capital needs before it becomes a crisis. And so these are kind of proactive investments to keep that system operating.
Okay, so they will fall in place with our budget, so we're pretty much clear. Okay, thank
You
you
get
so much.
the outliers of a crane breaking, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Rep.
Any other discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosrak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Resolutions, number 1, please.
Authorizing submission of the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report for the 2020 program year to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the review and approval regarding the use of CDBG and home funds.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support. Councilmember Pemberton, supported by Councilmember Lamb. Any questions or discussion?
Madam Mayor and Council, this is just a snapshot. This is a 5-year evaluation timeline, so it's not like all of our goals have to be met in 1 year. I think it's important, you know, we started this during COVID, and so just to give you a real quick of what some of the things that the city did, people know but maybe forget about. The mayor and council authorized $75,000 so we could provide 46,314 meals to people through Mid-City Nutrition. We provided the EDA with $213,000 to give micro grants to small businesses throughout our city. We gave the Council on Aging $47,000 so that they could continue to give Meals on Wheels to seniors who were shut in, maybe too afraid to come out during COVID. We actually helped 94 individuals receive food throughout that time. We gave Lake Huron Medical Center $32,500 towards installation to provide drive-through COVID testing for residents. So it takes a while to stand up that infrastructure. We also gave the Blue Water Community Action Agency $42,739 to help with eviction diversion. We want to make sure that our residents who were out of work could have had a place to stay. In addition to that, we gave $20,000 to the Blue Water Rescue Mission so they could prepare food in preparation areas for the homeless population. It has been a whirlwind year. We forget just how much all of you have authorized us to do, and so I think those are things important to point out.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Fareed?
Yes, yeah, I know that he went through, that was 6 areas that you highlighted that we gave from the COVID. So that kind of boosts what we already had, the monies that was already allocated to us. I was wondering if you could just have Dave, I'm on page 3 of the report here. Can you go over those fields, those category fields at the top for me? And the reason I'm asking that is because I kind of got confused. You know, you have the percent complete, and then you got percent complete over in this section. So can you do that, David? Just a brief explanation of what these fields, you know, I know what they're all about, but still it needs to be heard.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is, as Mr. Freed had mentioned, you have one column which represents a 1 year of a 5-year snapshot, and then you have the actual year program itself. And as you can imagine, the past year has been a challenging one, and expending the money, but we have a great team with Katie Posey and with Joy Russell, and they've done a great job in meeting our goals. And if you look at the far right-hand column, you will see that in most cases we exceeded. We partnered with our local Chodo and redevelopment of a home that they then provide to a low-income, low-moderate income family. We had 2 demos through the year. We also had emergency home repairs with those that were shut in. One of the areas that we did struggle is in the interior other home repairs, both in the rental and in the homeowner, just because of the nature of COVID and being able to go inside houses to make those repairs. So we were at about 60% on those metrics. On the brush up and exteriors, we actually exceeded. We were well over our anticipated amount. In fact, in one case, we were 170% above. And the same with our Urban Pioneer. Real estate market has been very good, and so we had a lot of people at the table looking to participate in our down payment assistance.
Okay, that covers it. Okay, so I see the Urban Pioneer, it did exceed also, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
And that's one of our Star Child programs. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make it clear, because we get these things all the time, and they're just so blanketed, and there actually are some more questions I have of you, but I can do that offline because it gets into the detail minutia, and so this is not the forum for that. But anyway, but I'll be getting you.
Be looking forward to it.
Okay, you're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Haynes? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Any other discussion? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosrak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes, item 2.
Approving the agreement with the Michigan Department of Transportation for the milling and resurfacing of M25 within the corporate limits of the city from Hancock to the center of the Black River Bridge.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Support?
Councilmember Ashford, supported by Councilmember Pemberton. Is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor and Council, under Act 51, we are statutorily obligated to match this project cost at 8.75%, which is $76,700, which will come out of the Major Streets funds. I think everyone's driven down Pine Grove. There's no need for a sales pitch.
No,
so.
there is not.
We are working as well with the rail line there. That railroad crossing is absolutely abysmal. Hopefully we can turn up some public heat on the rail line to take that seriously. We've reported it to MDOT. We report it to the rail company. So that is for those who are driving over that rail line. I hit it every morning as well, and it is awful. So hopefully we can factor that into this project as well. We expect this to be done early summer next year.
Early summer next year? Okay.
We are coordinating it with our 10th Ave project as well, so we don't have them both tore up at the same time.
Perfect.
Gratiot, excuse me, Gratiot. Sorry about that, Gratiot.
Any questions for Mr. Freed? Okay, we'll take the vote.
Councilmember Mosrak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Item 3.
Authorizing a 2-year listing agreement for the Municipal Office Center, 100 McMorran Boulevard, with Kramer Commercial Realty.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Councilmembers Mosrak and Ashford. Do you want to give a little background on this, Mr. Freed?
Yes, it's been the direction of the mayor and council, the adopted goals for the last couple years to develop a plan of action to repurpose City Hall into becoming an economic driver. When this was built in 1978, this area of the city did not look like this. I was not alive then, but I have photos, and it was quite the dump. It was industrial wasteland, essentially. In utilizing millions and millions of federal grants, we were able to build a wastewater plant here, build City Hall here, build beautiful Kiefer Park, put wonderful seawall up, clean up this entire area. So now it is a very desirable piece of property, thanks to utilizing federal funds. So this City Hall in its creation was a segue to bring federal relief to this area of the city. With that said, with the state of goal, the mayor and council to find and repurpose this building, it is our goal is that right now this is city offices, and we don't need world-class real estate. We don't need the nicest building in the city. We can move to a much more modest facility. Additionally, this building is not what it used to be. We did a capital improvement. We brought in JCI, an outside firm, to come look at this building, and they identified about $10 million of needs. About $5 million were immediate. The parking structure needs about $3 million in repairs. So when you ask why it's so cheap, $5 million, well, it's not really cheap because whoever buys this is going to need to immediately invest at least $3 to $5 million into getting this shored up structurally. If we don't sell it, that'll end up falling back to us. There's two types of developers in which have looked at the building. So the building has been relatively for sale for, I'd say, 3 to 4 years. We've been talking about this for 3 to 4 years.
Longer.
David and I have brought developers up, I would say probably 10 to 12 developers a year, quietly walk through the building, and then we go up and talk. And David, being back when David was at the EDA, we brought in Detroit developers, we brought in developers around the state, we've brought in developers from New York City. And there's two types of developers. There's one type of developer who looks at the building in its current condition, and they look at it as speculation. I can buy this building, maybe lease it out as rentable office space, which we're not sure if the market demand's there, and then sell it for a profit in a few years. I have concerns. That has happened at the AT&T building, that's happened at the Fog Cutter building, and those buildings have continued to depreciate without any type of significant capital investment. The second type of investor and developer who looks at this building is one who's capable and qualified and realizes that whoever buys this building is going to have to invest $10 to $15 million to repurpose it. So we believe that the highest and best use is probably some type of form of commercial, residential, maybe a hotel, condos, that would bring the highest and best use. The idea is that we sell it to a developer that takes an office building and repurposes it into a keynote economic driver for our downtown, bringing people to the community, creating jobs, creating taxable base, creating economic growth. So that is the long-term goal. Any type of sale of this property will, first and foremost, will come with a recommendation of a development agreement, meaning we're just not going to give this building away to the first person who comes with cash. Someone's got to enter into a development agreement where they commit to do something with this building, certain thresholds of investment, or the city council will claw it back. The second thing under our city charter is ultimately the people, the citizens of this city will get a vote, as this is waterfront property, so it will require a vote of the people to release this property for sale. So if we get a developer, and if we get a development agreement, it will then come to the mayor and council for consideration, and if the mayor and council deem it appropriate, we will put the question before the voters to ultimately give that decision to the voters of this city. We have, before you, you have a listing agreement with Kramer Commercial Realty. Kramer Commercial Realty is the keynote commercial realty firm in the region. They've handled the largest transactions within our city over the last, I'd say 72 months. We want to get this listed. You know, they have Zillow and MLS for residential listings. We have the same type of thing for commercial buildings, and we really want to market this to a much broader region, get this out on this database, start marketing this facility to a broader region. Kramer team has a marketing strategy to promote this building, to get more people interested in looking at this building. But this is a long process. So today you have a listing agreement for 24 months. Our base price for listing it is $5 million, but again, the price is based on the redevelopment agreement. And I can answer any questions, and we also have the brokers here as well.
Anyone have any questions?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Lamb.
could you elaborate a little bit on the property, like the land
Oh.
that would be?
Excellent question. Thank you for that. This is only for the building and the parking lot. It would not include any of Kiefer Park. We would maintain the waterfront, so we wouldn't lose the boardwalk. We wouldn't lose any of that. It would just be for the building, the parking garage, and the parking lot, nothing else. So we'll still maintain our waterfront. We'll still maintain Kiefer Park, all of that, just the structure itself.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mayor Rep,
Yes,
I
Councilmember
think it's
Ashford.
an excellent proactive move. Like you said, we've been trying to sell this forever, and one of my huge questions were, we're still gonna, comply with going to the voters before we do anything, because we've been down that myriad path before. So it appears as though we got everything in place. But I do have a question. You just threw us all under the bus at the shape of this, are we gonna do anything to try to improve upon some of those?
Well, at the work session we had, JCI presented a report. I sent it to you guys probably June. I sent a report on the facility and the needs assessment. The question comes as we invest in capital, and we invest in capital designed towards a purpose of office space. And so before we invest in significant capital, I'd like to have it designed for the highest and best purpose. So if you're gonna reconstruct something or redo something in this building, the means and methods in which you do it for office spaces versus condos and hotels is very different. So before we start dumping money into long-term decisions here, we at least need to see if there's other options, and so that's the reason why.
Well, I understand that, but I just didn't know if we were gonna prioritize anything else that we could be doing, other than that,
Yeah, the first and foremost will be the parking deck.
Yeah, well,
That's leaking water, cables are breaking. We have a whole report you guys conducted a report. We did a report you authorized last year. You have that report. I think it calls for about $3.5 million in repairs. No matter who has this building, we're gonna end up having to look at that.
thank you.
One of the things as well, as I stressed to the residents who ask about, why haven't you sold City Hall yet? Well, the last two buildings that have sold in town that were this large, or even comparable in scope, they were sold at an online auction to somebody who has never set foot in our city before, or seen the building. And they've held it as speculative properties, as they've depreciated, become eyesores. We can't let that happen to this building. This is an attractive building. Someone with a lot of money somewhere in the country will probably see it at an auction and bid on it, and not realize that we are counting on this project to become an economic driver. And so if they just hold it as speculation or let it depreciate, that really disenfranchises our community from the fullest potential of this site. We invested a lot of money and a lot of energy back in the day to redevelop this property, to clean this property up, in the hopes that one day it would be an economic driver for the citizens. And so we want to make sure that we protect that long-term goal, now a multi-generational goal, the previous generation versus this generation. So I think that's key, and I just want to stress that a lot. We're trying, but we're also trying to be good stewards in how we do it.
How long do you think that we have until we have to start putting money in regardless of if we don't sell it? I mean, what's the time frame that you think that's legitimate to say?
There's some repairs that regardless of use will need to be made, and those repairs will probably have to be made within the design and bid probably within the next 12 to 24 months need to be completed.
Okay.
Or the longer we wait, like the deck, the longer we wait, the worse it's going to get and more expensive.
Right. Absolutely.
Mayor,
Yes.
James, can we assume if we do have to go to that route and finally have to replace the deck, we'll be adjusting the asking price? I mean, if we're putting money back in, is
Yeah.
that gonna be something that we're able to do with Kramer Realty? Okay.
Yep. Every dollar we go in, the price goes up.
Gonna pray.
Any other questions for Mr. Freed? Well, you did good explanations, so we'll take the vote.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosrak?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Item 4.
Confirming the city manager's appointment of Mark Fulmer and Tim Juingle to serve as administrative hearing officers for a term of 1 year for the Administrative Hearings Bureau.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Councilmember. Supported by Councilmember Mosrak. Ashford and Mosrak.
Madam Mayor and Council, we conducted numerous interviews for lawyers and former law enforcement officials for this position. Our city attorney sat in on those interviews, and these are the recommendations of the panel.
And are they starting right away?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any questions? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosrak?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. We have ordinance number 1.
Second reading and enactment. An ordinance to amend Chapter 10 Building and Building Regulations of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances to provide for additions and revisions regarding blight violations, non-owner occupied residential dwellings and units, and vacant and abandoned homes within the city of Port Huron.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Councilmember Pemberton and Councilmember Lamb. Now, there was, I know, because I was not at the last meeting, but there was a couple of these where there were some changes made, wasn't there, from the
Yes,
last one?
so-
Is this one of them, or?
Yes, so
I thought so.
I'll go through the changes. So this is through the whole ordinances as a whole, multiple ordinances. Let me just review what we did. So
Okay.
we met with the Port Huron Landlord Association, as I told them I would at the last meeting, and it was a wonderful, shockingly wonderful meeting. It was good to hear from their points of view. They really had no major issues actually with what we were doing. The only thing they requested is, in the original draft, we had that your rental certification had to be mounted on an 8.5 by 11 sign in the unit somewhere. And they brought up the point, that kind of stigmatizes rentals, and maybe people who rent a home and have a nice decor don't want a sign hanging in their living room. And as somebody who's rented a home in Port Huron, I can tell you, I don't want a sign hanging in my living room either. And so we thought that, that's a fair compromise. And so we have removed that from the language as well, based on their request, and it was a fair, logical request. A second request as well is that we would subject Section 8 HUD homes to the same rental inspections as every other rental. They are inspected every year by HUD. So the idea that we need to inspect them twice kind of seems odd. Some of the issues we've had is you could have a Section 8 home for 10 or 15 years and the city's never gotten into it. And sometimes when we get into it, we find out there's a lot of problems in there that somehow missed inspection from HUD. And so what the Landlord Association had recommended is maybe we just do it every 4 years. Again, we felt that was a reasonable compromise. So instead of inspecting the HUD homes like everything else, we'll inspect them every 4 years. And beyond that, that was it. And so those are two changes we felt were legitimate compromises and things that make sense. And so we factored that in as well.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes,
so
go ahead.
are we still in compliance with every 4 years? Or-
Yeah.
I mean, can you do that? You say you changed the time frame, so is this being mandated by HUD, or is this something?
No, HUD
we
will
can
still be
do?
inspected by HUD every year, but every 2 years, correct? Every 2 years. But the city will inspect them every 4 years. There's no reason to have two inspections that often.
You can make your own, do your own thing right
Yep.
here, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Those were the only changes that were made from the first reading.
Correct, yep,
And they're all indicated in blue, correct?
yes.
So we'll know what's changed, okay.
Just want to make sure. Okay, we're back to ordinance number 1, and it's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, we will take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes?
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosher?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Ordinance number 2.
Second reading and enactment. An ordinance to amend Chapter 2 Administration, Article 7, Administrative Hearings Bureau, Section 2-901, Definitions of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances to designate certain violations as blight, making them subject to the city's Administrative Hearings Bureau process.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Councilmember Lamb, supported by Councilmember Pemberton. Any discussion on these? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosher?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Item 3.
Second reading and enactment. An ordinance to amend Chapter 52 zoning, Article 2, Administration and Enforcement, and Article 3, District Regulations of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances to designate certain violations as blight, making them subject to the city's Administrative Hearings Bureau process.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Mosherak, is there a second?
Support?
Councilmember Lamb, any discussion? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Mosher?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb?
Yes.
Mayor Rep?
Yes. Item 4, please.
Second reading and enactment. An ordinance to amend Chapter 32, Law Enforcement, Article 2, Municipal Civil Infractions of the Port Huron Code of Ordinances for the purpose of revising certain ordinance violations as municipal civil infractions.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Support?
Councilmember Ashford, supported by Councilmember Pemberton. Any discussion? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Pemberton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosrak,
Yes.
Mayor Epp.
Yes, that concludes our regular agenda for this evening. I do have a couple of announcements. We have several ribbon cuttings this week, some really exciting ones. Starting with tomorrow, Palmer Park ribbon cutting is at 4 o'clock, and it's dedication and reopening of the playground, and that is quite a playground now. My grandchildren, it is 4.
It is
Yeah,
for,
she misspoke herself.
Oh, okay. Y'all had me coming in from all time.
No, it is 4 o'clock.
Okay.
And the new playground equipment is amazing. Then there's also on Wednesday at 4 o'clock on the artwork in the tunnel, the Blue Water River Walk in the tunnel there where we had new lighting and painting, and the artist came and painted it, and that's going to have a celebration at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. And then Friday at 4 o'clock, so we've got 3 of them this week, the Huron Lightship is now going to be open again after all the many repairs that we had to put into it. So that will be on Friday at 4 o'clock. So those are all really great things for our community. Is there anything else to come before the council, from council?
None other than you, myself, and Jeff, and City Manager Freed attended the Grand Rapids MML convention this week. And we certainly, was kind of taken, when all that storm and stuff was going on.
Yeah.
But we had a play-by-play, and I'd just like to actually thank our police department and our fire department and all those that worked, and of course the help of DTE. I can't say that, but anyway, everybody was just coming together, and I know Pauline was on needles and pins. Oh my gosh, what is happening there? And it wasn't, we weren't thankful because we were there or anything. It's just that I kept looking at her turn it all different colors. Well, maybe I should try to be there. I thought you better keep yourself sitting still. But anyway, we certainly had you guys in our prayers in our whole city. But getting back to the conference was all about we're trying something new, not just in the state of Michigan, but across the country. It's not just because of COVID and everything, COVID was kind of like a main factor in there, how we're doing things different and how we need to bring about more trust and belonging amongst people. And so that was their common theme, one of trust as far as our neighborhood goes, and also a sense of belonging. And we didn't want to, just limit it to, the races or anything like that, but it is all about human beings, coming together and what we have to do in order to rebuild our communities back up so we could have that greater connection with our city and our residents. And we actually identified 6 areas. We dealt with or got training or speeches on lifelong learning, public health, arts and culture, the infrastructure, sustainability, and financial security. So, you all been to conferences before. We do a lot of networking, and we just don't just sit there, but we all are very much engaged because everybody's trying to find out how we can do this, And what impressed me best is, I'm just going to frame it like this. We had a feeling that we weren't trying to compete with one another, Detroit versus Port Huron or that, but we were trying to complete one another. There's a big difference. When you're trying to compete, you're always out there on your own trying to do this and beat somebody out. But here, we were just trying to see what we have, in order to complete someone else to enhance, where we can go as far as building the city of Port Huron. So with that, we got, at least I know Pauline probably did too. You got a lot of good ideas that come there, best practices. And so, I'm not just gonna sit on it. I'm, whisper, shout it in Jim's ear. I ain't gonna whisper, I'm gonna shout some stuff in his ear, and maybe we could get something going here, some of those things that may be applicable to the city of Port Huron. And I know he has always been open, and expect him to receive that as such, when we give it to him, Pauline. So, just wanted to mention that was, really a lot of good information.
And there's a lot of good information on the funds, the American Rescue Funds.
Oh, yes.
So, and I've passed that along to James as well. So.
It's been wonderful taking your phone calls.
I know. Because he did have to leave early to come back to take care of the crisis here in Port Huron, so.
3 o'clock in the morning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He left out of there, yeah.
So,
Yep. So,
is there anything from anybody else on council?
Madam Mayor and Council, I would just reiterate my appreciation to our first responders and there's a lot of things that go on that people don't see. At one point, Chief Nicholson called me and said, Chief Platzer's directing traffic and I'm turnout gear. Do you need to know anything else? And not really. That pretty much did this. So I've seen Chief Platzer directing traffic twice this week. So there is no job below him. So I appreciate that. There's a lot of really dangerous situations when you have fire, water, and primary transmission lines rattling overhead of a fire truck. Wouldn't catch me underneath it, I can tell you that much. Our forestry division, they work where there is no limelight, so they're out there cutting up brush in the middle of the night, no one's watching. But they do tremendous work. We are well ahead of schedule. We predicted this would take us 2 to 3 weeks to clean up this city. I can tell you we are beginning to do zones right now. So for residents, get your stuff out to the curb as soon as possible. Once we start moving through, we can't keep coming back. So once we pass, we pass. So hopefully residents got a good start on the weekend to get their stuff out there. DTE, I know everyone likes to complain about DTE, but they did a tremendous job. We had crews from all over the Midwest here. I sat and hung out with Hoosier Electric at Lakeside Park the other night. There was about 15, 20 trucks from Hoosier Electric came up to help us out. A lot of their contractors, so DTE really, and they did an excellent job of communication. Every morning I was getting briefings. They gave out just box truck after box trucks of ice at their community van, so they really did a tremendous job, and so I appreciate their hard work. And also to the residents, our phones did not ring off the hook with complaints. People were incredibly understanding through this entire week. You get the few outliers, but people were understanding. They understood this is a big task and a monumental task. I appreciate the residents who took time to thank our workers in the field. A lot of them mentioned that to me. So our residents have just been incredibly gracious and patient during this time.
When you mentioned about the debris out at the curb, I assume that's a separate pickup from the normal yard waste pickup that was today?
Correct. We're sending the claw truck around. So if you have brush, we're going to take the claw truck and they literally claw it up and put it in a big box truck and take it away. So a lot of people have big limbs and brush that they can't get broken up. Just drag it out there, and if it's too big, we'll cut it up and get it all taken care of.
Very good. And that should be accomplished within the next, I know you don't want to be putting that.
The goal is 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
We're making tremendous progress. I'm thinking a week, maybe a week and a few days to get this taken care of.
Well, we'll have an update at the next council meeting. That's in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You can update us.
If we forget a limb, I think we'll hear about it.
Yeah,
so,
I think we will
yeah.
too. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So move, Madam Chair.
Meeting adjourned.